born in Rome, Italy, June 1953. I'd done all my studies in Italy, all my schooling, and then when I came to Canada, when I was 17, I said, wow, this is a great country, I'm staying. So I got my immigration permit, went and made an application, and I stayed. And I've been here since. I became interested in fly fishing basically when I was in Italy. I was probably 14, 15. Myself and my younger brother, we kind of started looking at fly fishing, and it was really amazing. I was awed by the casting and the use of flies rather than using worms and minnows and other things. So it really fascinated me, and I got more and more into it, and then it became like a passion that it never went away. Bamboo is basically grass, right? It's a grass plant that grows in Hong Kong, and that's the only one I get. 40 to 50 feet tall, right? And you get a certain part of the bamboo to mix the rod. But being a natural fiber and being processed, baked, cut, and glued and whatnot, you can actually take the bamboo rod and go bend it in two, and it will not break. Bamboo fly fishing is like a different sport from graphite. And I said, wow, this is something that I really enjoy because of the casting ability, the smoothness of the line, you know, and so on. And so I went and tried to buy one. And I said, wow, those are the prices? So, you know, back then it was still in the $3,000 for a rod. And I said, I can't afford it. So I said, how difficult is to make one? It has a 60 degrees V inside here, right? And it goes from small to big, right? And essentially, rod making for me became a passion because it was the ability to do something that was so accurate and so compelling that made it a challenge. I mean, to make one rod, it takes about 120 hours, 3 months minimum. We're a very meticulous, very detailed process. And as a rod maker, if you don't have attention to detail and being anal to be perfect, it's just not worth it. Right? So that you can actually mark it, right? And as you go up and down, it just changes. And this is how you cut it to make sure that it's something like rod making, especially bamboo fly rod, is not something you go out and buy the tools. There are some tools that you can buy, like planing form and whatnot. But essentially you have to make your tools. So like rod wrapping, bindings, gluing, those tools had to be made. So the challenge was not only cutting the bamboo to perfection, but was also making all these tools, right? When you're building a rod, so if somebody asks you, I want a fast rod for dry fly, what you do is you have to calculate the moments at each inch of the bamboo from small to big so that you know what kind of pressures and what kind of character the rod will have. The challenge is, how do you know that you're building a fast rod versus a slow rod if you don't know how to calculate? When Garrison's book came out, it was a blessing in the sky because he had, as an engineer, developed a process, a mathematical process, which is very convoluted, of calculating the moments, right, through these formulas and knowing what character the rod will be, so that when you design the rod and you design the character, you pretty well have a good idea what is going to come out on the other side when you finish. Because you don't want to spend 100 hours doing a rod and then you go cast and say, that's not what I wanted. When the book came out, it was like a God blessing because it answered all the questions that I had, and which I couldn't ask anybody because there aren't that many rod makers around, right? Then with the internet, of course, it made it that much easier to get information, supplies, and whatnot. So I basically self-taught myself to do it, but it took a long time. My personal payment is when somebody receives their rod and say, wow, I really like the way it casts, the appearance, and the way it handles the line. And so that's my payment, is somebody being completely satisfied of the work I did. That to me is the most important aspect of rod making.